Our next presenters were kind enough to answer a question that I've been thinking about for quite some time. What's up with the Y? I'm speaking about the YMCA. What do you think of when you hear that? Right? Me too. So I wanted to know. Today we find out how through servant leadership, this is something we can all learn a great deal from. Queen City Leader Mini Summit, please welcome my two new favorite friends, President and CEO Todd Tibbits, and a person that has shown me how to persevere through an ongoing pandemic with a brand new initiative, VP of Christian Mission, Victor Nicholson, both of the YMCA of Greater Charlotte.
Hello, Queen City leaders. It's good to be with you today. I am blessed to be here with Victor Nicholson. Victor, right before COVID, you took on a new job with the YMCA, Vice President of Christian Mission, and almost immediately COVID-19 hit. How has that impacted you, and how do you see your job as we're now hopefully through the pandemic?
Esther 4:4 talks about for such a time as this. God put this role in place right before the pandemic because he knew what was going to take place. At the Y, this role, the vision for this role is to create a culture and an environment where the unifying love of Jesus Christ can be expressed and experienced by all. So with that, for our staff to create this culture and environment, I had to make sure that our staff were healthy, right? So we have taken this inside out approach where we are caring for our staff, right? So our team statement is to love, serve, and care for all in the manner that Christ would. So here we are, being the hands and feet of Christ at the YMCA.
Yeah, very good. One of the things, Victor, you taught me early in this is the statement of hurt people hurt people. And so this notion of inside out is so important because at the end of the day, our goal is to transform lives and community. And if our people are hurting, it's really difficult to do that. So I really appreciate all you're doing.
So a number of people, struggled during the pandemic. Real life issues took place. But that didn't exclude our staff members, right? So our staff members had family members who were affected by COVID, right? And we had some staff members that we had to downsize, right? So we wanted to make sure that we are caring for our staff during this pandemic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative for all you're doing because it is changing the culture in a positive way at our law.
Yeah, I really believe, as we build this position out, it's fairly new, but as we build it out, I believe that our YMCAs will be holy ground, that when people walk through our doors, they will say there's something different about the Y, right? That's what separates us from other fitness facilities, right, is our Christian mission. I really believe that the next revival will be in marketplace, right, where leaders such as those who are with us today will be able to lift up Jesus Christ, right? And when they're in our facilities, they will sense that there's something different. So we don't want to take the place or substitute churches. We want to enhance what churches are doing, right? And then also reach the unchurched. There are so many in our city who are not connected to a church. But when they walk through our doors at the YMCA and our staff members greet them, we want to make sure that they are being greeted with the love of Christ.
That's right. I've been with the Y almost 30 years, and the power has always been the Y meets people where they're at.
Right.
And that is such an amazing thing as we transform lives.
Absolutely. And so I would love to hear how the YMCA has transformed the community during the pandemic.
Well, it obviously, we were in the foxhole together through this, and it has been a challenge. As you said, we've had to let some staff go. Our full-time staff is 32% less than what it was, and our membership was about half of what it was. Right. And we're so thankful for all those that stayed with us. But one of the silver linings is the focus that we've had. We have some of the best facilities, YMCAs in the country, and that's something that we're so proud of. But that doesn't define us.
Absolutely.
That became even clearer during the pandemic.
Right.
So we have this laser focus now. Some of our volunteers have said my elevator speech needs less floors.
Yes.
Because we're so focused. And our focus is on health equity and youth and teen opportunity. And for me, how I define health equity is proximity. We're in the areas where people need us. proximity plus access
Wow.
equals equity.
Yeah.
And our whole goal is to lift all people up so they have an opportunity to have a happy and successful life as they define it.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
Wow.
The traditional membership model is still important to the Y, but it does not define us. And
Right.
that's more than ever our focus on health equity and youth and teen opportunities.
So you talked about our beautiful facilities, some of the best facilities in the country. But what I realized during the pandemic is one of our greatest assets was our parking lot during the pandemic.
That's right.
Right? When we were able to transform our parking lot to health equity campuses, right? So you want to talk a little bit about how we served the community during the pandemic?
Yeah, so we're sitting now in our studio at the Dow YMCA, and the Dow YMCA literally is the busiest Y pre-pandemic in the country. We had over 1 million visits at this one Y in that year. And a lot of it is adult focused, fitness focused. This YMCA transformed into a learning location and an emergency childcare location for Atrium and Navan employees as on the front end of this pandemic, where those workers were essential to get into the hospitals to treat people. We were able to provide this major service for free for Atrium and Navan employees. And then we were able to expand that over the summer, really trying to navigate and learn as we went about how we needed to be safe through this in remote learning and summer programs. And what I'm so proud of, Victor, is we were able to run a fairly normal resident camp program at Camp Thunderbird and Camp Harrison, and we had 0 cases of COVID spread last year.
Wow.
So from a safety standpoint, we ran such a safe program, but we also provided normalcy. One of the biggest issues coming out of COVID for children and adults is mental health.
Right.
And that's where your job is so important, where we can center people around Christ and then show the love of Christ.
Right.
It's so much more important than for us to do the sermon, but to be the sermon.
Right.
And the YMCA, I think, gives us an incredible opportunity to be that sermon in our community.
So you talked about show the love of Christ, right? One of the things that excited me during the pandemic is we were able to be the hands and feet of Christ here on earth, right? So where we did food shares in our parking lot, the Bible says, what you do unto the least of them, you do unto me. Right?
Yeah, and one other specific, as far as meeting people where they're at on the east side of Charlotte, where our food shares for the Nepalese population, we did vegan food boxes because that's important in their culture. So once again, not making them adapt to our culture, but us meeting them where they're at, I think is such a critical place where everyone feels like they belong. And that, because I truly believe when we talk about the love, serve, and care in a manner that Christ would, as he went to the woman at the well and the Good Samaritan, and
love that
all
scripture.
the stories, is how Jesus showed up and met people where they were at.
Absolutely. So I'm excited on what's to come, but we have done so much in service with partnerships. So you want to talk a little bit about some of our partners that we've partnered with?
Yeah, so our vision statement at the YMCA is to be the catalyst to transform lives and community, right? And so we also put an action statement with that, that through partnerships, we will focus on health equity and youth and teen opportunity in a sustainable business model, because over the last 18 months, the model hasn't been very sustainable. Thanks, and we've been blessed by God that as we come out of it, we will have a sustainable model. And partnerships is a huge piece of this. You mentioned a couple. Atrium is a huge piece of this. In the great work we do with them around clinical care and access to the YMCA, and specifically around prevention. Loaves and Fishes is another great one. Read Charlotte, the city of Charlotte. I don't know how we would have gotten through all of this without the city of Charlotte and their partnership. They truly funded our branches in the corridor. McCrory Y on Beatty's Ford, Stratford Richardson on West Boulevard, Simmons on the east side, Johnston on NODA. That support and that partnership specifically around youth and teens lifted these kids up and provided a support mechanism for the YMCA that was so significant. So, and then, as I said, Read Charlotte around third grade literacy, making sure all kids can read at grade level by third grade, and the work that Monroe Richardson and that whole team is doing. That partnership, along with CMS, is going to be really significant moving forward.
Yeah, so you talked about meeting people where they are. We want to make sure we're not leaving people, right, as we move forward. So some of our seniors, we did some digital divide work during the pandemic, where with digital literacy in partnership with Queens, we were able to provide a curriculum for our seniors. Some of our seniors didn't know how to cut on a computer, right? So think about during the pandemic, they're not able to go out and see their families, but we put together this service, this curriculum, where we teach them how to navigate the internet. Right. So our seniors didn't know how to cut on the computer when they started the class, but by the end of the class, they're FaceTiming their families, right?
Yeah,
so
we found that the digital divide is such a significant need in our community. Right. And one last thing I'll mention before we close out here, Victor, is one of the blessings we received was late last year when we received this $18 million gift from Mackenzie Scott. Right. And as we've looked at how we can leverage that, and our task force said we're going to focus initially on Beatty's Ford corridor and the West Boulevard corridor. Right. And that's one of the key topics that's come up. And one of the things that's really important to me as we talk about the strategic direction of the YMCA, for our community and for the leaders in the Queen City, if we could all come on board together with one strategic plan, put our logos to the side, put our funding together, our resources together, align strategic plan around lifting all up. A lot of the things we've been talking about, meeting people where they're at and lifting up, I see so much power. And another great partner is For Charlotte. Yes. And the work Rob Kelly's doing to try to bring all the churches together. Right. If we could all come together and to love, serve, and care for all in the manner that Christ would, I promise you our community will be lifted up. Yeah. So Bible says that God can do exceedingly abundantly more than we could ask, hope, or imagine, right? So I'm really excited about the future. So Todd, as we close, if you want to speak to our members, right, who are with us at the Y. Yeah, so those that have stayed with the YMCA through this whole time, we went from 62,000 household membership units down to 27,000. And that 27,000 base was significant to helping us get through this pandemic, along with the city and some key donors. So thank you so much. Thanks for staying with us, because the YMCA is so much more than a pool and a gym. We are truly here to transform lives and community, and we cannot do it without you. So if you haven't come back yet, we invite you back to be something very special as the Y rebuilds out of this pandemic. It is going to be a cornerstone, as it has been for 150 years. So we welcome you back to the YMCA, and we will embrace you. You will belong at the YMCA. Thanks for all you do in your leadership position to lift up Christ in all you do in the marketplace. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. That was really wonderful. Hey, look, inside out is the key. We have to start with ourselves. But then remember, we meet our friends where they are and we serve them. Going through this pandemic, it's been mental and physical, and it's important that we take care of both of those. One of my favorite parts of the story was the no senior left behind. What? There were parts of the story I related to more than others. Don't judge.